Welcome back to Self Mastery for Men. This is lesson 4, and this week is all about mindset and worldview. So, let's quickly recap what we've covered so far. We've covered the 7 levels of self mastery and how they all relate to each other, how they all interrelate. The ones higher on the list have a little bit more influence over the ones lower on the list, and they all are pretty important. We also covered your purpose, which is the importance of having a true north, which helps keep everything else in your life in alignment and on track. And last time we talked about identity, which is how we view ourselves. Because if you remember, we don't get what we say that we want, we get who we believe we are. We can't outperform our self-concept. So a lot of times we want to upgrade the way that we view ourselves in order to get the results that we want. And then today, we're going to talk about a very important topic here in personal development, which is mindset and worldview. And it's very important because just like we said that you can't outperform your self-concept, your outer world is actually a reflection of your inner world. Okay, your outer world is actually a reflection of your inner world. And I'm not saying that in the spiritual, high concept, just think positive, everything's going to be okay sense. I really want you to get that here in this module. But what I'm talking about is in a practical, down-to-earth sense, and we're going to explain that as we go on. But so have you ever heard the quote, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change? When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So your worldview, your mindset, what you expect becomes sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Whatever's inside of you tends to get reflected out there in the world. And don't worry, we're going to explain to you exactly how and the mechanism behind this. But think of it like this. Think of it like when you look in a mirror. When you look in a mirror and you don't like what you see, you can't change the reflection without changing what first. Yeah, if you don't like the way you're standing, you have to personally change your posture. If you don't like your expression in the mirror, you have to personally change your expression. If you don't like the things that are around you in the mirror when you're looking at the reflection, you got to change the stuff that's in your actual environment so the mirror reflection reflects the same thing. Does that make sense? And that's what's going on when I say what's in here inside of you gets reflected out there. But like I said before, I'm not saying this in this spiritual, high concept, namaste, bow and go meditate in the woods type of sense. I'm all about practicality. I'm all about being rational. So whatever you believe to be true about yourself, about the world, about people, about life, tends to be what gets reflected back. And in this section, I want to share with you what I discovered. And I'm going to make this really easy for you because I want to be in complete transparency with you. I want to be completely truthful with you. The concept of mindset used to agitate me to no end. It used to drive me nuts. And not because I'm not a positive guy. I consider myself, a positive person. I do my own inner work. And, I'm not overtly negative, or at least in the past I wasn't. But in the past, I just couldn't figure out, why do these things keep happening to me? I think I'm a really good guy. I have the best intentions, but no matter what I try, why do bad things seemingly keep happening? And what I'd hear years ago would be all these do-gooder type people saying, oh, just fix your mindset. It's just a mindset thing. And I'd be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I should probably change my mindset. And I'd read some books and I'd try to think positive, and then bad stuff would happen again. And I couldn't figure it out. And they'd be like, oh, well, that's just a mindset thing. But they would say it. You ever have when somebody says something to you and it's kind of smarmy and it's kind of coming from a holier than thou place? That's what they would all do. Oh, well, it sounds like you got to fix your mindset. And they would just be talking like they're up on the mountaintop, and it would drive me nuts. And I'd get frustrated because this whole change your mindset concept became kind of like the catchphrase that everyone was saying, but without even knowing what it meant. It was just the trendy thing to do, and no one could even tell you how to do it effectively. It was like the law of attraction, just think positive, just think of what you want, wishful thinking. And it really just wasn't working, and no one could tell you how to do it. It felt like what they call spiritual bypassing, right? So spiritual bypassing is like no matter what's happening in front of you, you just kind of numb yourself out and try to force yourself to think positive, ignore that and be like, oh no, I'm blissed out, everything is good. To me, that's not realistic. Does that make sense? And even worse, so right around this time, I worked for this company for about a year. And they were super into the law of attraction. They were super into positive thinking and mindset, but not in a healthy way, in this toxic way I was telling you about. And so, for example, every problem that happened in their real business came down to a quote unquote mindset problem. So for example, the systems, the actual systems in their offices would break down, and they'd pull us all into a meeting, and they'd be reprimanding us for, what was it that you ate last week that caused your mindset to be negative today, which then manifested their computer systems don't work. And they never took any responsibility for fixing anything. It was just insane. So mindset to me became this really stupid buzzword. I didn't even want to hear it, and I wanted to avoid it at all costs. It was like toxic positivity, because everything was just fix your mindset, fix your mindset. So that's not what we're going to do today. What I want to do today is I want to explain to you what mindset is in a real world, down to earth, here's what's going on, practical sense that you can actually use. How important would that be for you? How important is it? Because the truth is, mindset is important, but just no one really tells you what's going on with it, so it becomes unusable in some cases. So what do you say we make this something you can use? How's that sound? So to illustrate the importance here of mindset, have you ever heard of the story of Bill Buckner? So he was a player for the Boston Red Sox in 1986. I grew up in New England, and it's a famous story because this guy, the Red Sox were in the World Series, and he let the game-winning ball slip through his glove between his legs. So it sounds like bad luck, right? But was this just random? Was it bad luck? Was it a mindset issue? So actually, let's go a little bit deeper. Did you know that 19 days before the big game, he was actually interviewed by WBZ TV? And they interviewed him about the pressures of playing in the postseason in the World Series. And so I quote, Bill Buckner eerily explains his worst case scenario. And here's what he says. He goes, well, the dream is that you're going to have a great series and win. But the nightmares are that you're going to let the winning run score on a ground ball through your legs. Those things happen, I think a lot of that is just fate. Did you see what just happened there? In great detail. He creates a mental picture, and he says it out loud about how his nightmare is that he's going to let the winning run score on a ground ball through his legs. And he just calls it fate. Now, was he very, very specific? Could you get a very clear image of what he was picturing was going to happen, or was afraid of was going to happen? Yeah, that wasn't just, I'm afraid we're going to lose, I hope we do well. That was, I have the image in my mind. And so why did it happen in reality? Like, was it manifestation? Is it supernatural? Is it woo-woo? Is it he is a psychic and he predicted it? No, here's what he did. He simply programmed his unconscious mind or his subconscious mind to focus on the images of what he didn't want. And he created it in great detail. And he was probably playing a mental movie over and over and over in his head. And so he programmed his mental image, his mental movie, and that's what he primarily focused on. And it was his greatest fear. So it's like, don't look at what you don't want. Well, he's like just staring right at it. And so his body in the World Series followed through. It became a self-fulfilling prophecy because he did mental rehearsal. His body was ready to respond with what he was picturing. They have a book called Psycho-Cybernetics where it talks about how mental rehearsal can actually get your body ready for the real thing. Well, so what happens when you mentally rehearse the wrong thing? It became a self-fulfilling prophecy for him. And it's not just him. We're all doing this unconsciously. We all want the promotion, but we're really afraid we're not going to get it. We all want to talk to our boss, but we're really afraid we're gonna squeeze up and close down and not be able to talk. We all want to ask the girl out, but we're hoping she doesn't say no and embarrass us. We want to be able to carry that tray of food, but we're picturing ourselves just slipping and falling and spilling it everywhere. So, true story, it's gotten to the point where if I'm carrying a big giant cup full of something that's full, I make sure to picture myself successfully carrying it and not like, oh my God, I hope I don't spill it, because I just want to make sure that my mind doesn't go there. Does that make sense? So you see, your mindset determines your external experience. Not because it changes the external experience, but it changes what you notice, it changes what you look for, and it changes what you make things mean. You don't get what you want. You get what you give your attention to most of the time. I'll say that again, that's important. You don't get what you want. You get what you give your attention to most of the time. And most people's attention habitually goes where? Yeah, to what they don't want, to what they're afraid of most, or what they want to avoid. Does that make sense? Your brain is a genius thing. It's a genius thing. But what you're going to find out is your brain's not designed to give you what you want. It's designed to keep you out of danger. So it's designed to look for problems. Millions of years of evolution, right? You want to make sure that you notice, oh, that tree branch wasn't broken before. I need to get into fight or flight because there's a bear behind there, or else you die. So the brain has gotten really good at noticing things that could be potentially problematic. It doesn't really serve you too well in the century that we're in, right? But that's the way that it works. So that's why the news is so riveting, by the way. Because the news knows it's television, even though it's like trying to inform you, it still is show business, isn't it? It still is the television, it's the media. They make their money through ratings. So they figured out the human brain's always looking for bad news. Well, we're just going to give them nonstop bad news. And so that's what they do because that draws the attention. It's not there to, make you feel good about life. It's meant to show you the worst of humanity and keep you tuned in. So I digress. Most people think their life just kind of happens to them through cause and effect. Most people think life just happens to them through cause and effect. But the truth is people unconsciously choose what they focus on, and then what they focus on becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So people unconsciously choose what they focus on, and then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And a self-fulfilling prophecy, like I said, not in you're changing the very fabric of the universe, right? Depending on what you look into. If you're into quantum mechanics, you can look into that and go deeper. But for the purposes of this, the best way to describe it is Elon Musk talked about an algorithm. So to give you a really good example, Elon Musk on Twitter, people were complaining because they didn't like what he was posting. And they were like, Elon Musk, you're stupid, we hate you. And they're like, I don't think there's a thumbs down, but they're giving him the equivalent of a thumbs down, and they're just negatively engaging in him, right? And so Elon Musk, he goes, look, guys, like you can not like me all you want, but do you know how the algorithm works here on Twitter? And it works like this on all social media platforms. He goes, the algorithm works based on engagement. It doesn't matter if it's negative engagement. It doesn't matter if you don't like it. If you stop, if you stare at it, if you comment, even if it's a negative comment, even if it's a frowny face, it tells the algorithm you're engaging with it. So what it does is to keep you on the platform, it gives you more of what you engage with or more of what you put your focus on. So pretty soon you're just going to get an entire news feed full of stuff from Elon Musk because you've told Twitter that's what I'm focused on. So he goes, if you don't like what I'm saying, stop paying attention to me. And I'm going to go away from your newsfeed. So do you see what he's saying? Focus and attention equals engagement. And that's what's happening in your life. So how important do you think it would be to set up your own internal algorithm, your own mindset to work for you rather than work against you? And to have it work unconsciously, because that's what we've done. That's how we've set up the game of life, is through conditioning through our life. We've told our brain what to focus on, what we give our attention to. And what you'll start to notice is the more that you put your focus on certain things, or the more you think things are important, your brain is gonna unconsciously sort for more of that experience. So if you unconsciously believe that money is very, very difficult to make and you're always screwed over by life, you're gonna find more examples of why money's really hard to make and you're always screwed over for life. You're going to find more of that. If you have a deep-seated belief that everything always works out in your favor, the whole world could be crashing down around you. Go, oh, wow, I'm still alive. Things are really working out in my favor. And you'll sort for that. That's how your brain works. Does that make sense? So it's not this spiritual woo-woo thing. It's how are you programming your algorithm to sort for what you want out there in the world, because it will actually change your experience of life to change what you focus on. It will literally do that for you. So the average person has no idea how their brain works because, we don't get born. They don't give us an instruction manual on how to use our brain. But I'm going to give you a crash course on exactly in the next section how to use your brain for your benefit and how to get it working for you unconsciously to sort for what you want and not what you don't want. So I'll see you in the next session.